President Emmanuel Macron is attending ceremonies in Normandy this Tuesday, marking the 79th anniversary of D-Day. It was the largest naval, air and land operation in military history. Let's cross now to Luke Brown, who's in Arromanches. Just take us through what's happening today, Luke.
Yes, so we're expecting Emmanuel Macron to begin speaking, addressing the crowd here in Arromanches at some point in the coming minutes. He's running about 30 minutes late as things stand. The specific point that he's come here to do has to be to inaugurate the new museum for the D-Day memory here in Arromanches. This, of course, this small town is closest to Gold Beach, so all around me are vestiges of the D-Day landings, for example, the artificial port, the floating harbour that was built in a very short amount of time, is still present and still on the horizon here around Arromanches. So inaugurating this museum, this new museum, is important. It's important for the locals from an economic perspective, for example. Many of the people I'm speaking to here today indicate that throughout the year they're not exactly overwhelmed, but a great quantity of tourists come from, most notably, of course, the US, the UK and Canada, but also further afield here in Europe too. Tourists often coming to visit the D-Day memorial sites. For Emmanuel Macron himself, there is a political aspect to the visit. Earlier in the morning, he spoke with this final surviving French veteran of the D-Day landings. That's in a bid, to, in a certain extent, to ensure that there is a French memory and a French participation for those landings. But he's also accompanied by the Prime Minister, Elisabeth Borne, and in a way, it's a way of distracting attention, given those ongoing protests in Paris and around the country about the raising of the retirement age. It's what they call a political postcard from Emmanuel Macron, sending a little image of himself around the country to ensure voters don't forget that he is still in charge.
And next year, Luke, is going to be the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Do we have any idea at this stage as to what exactly is being planned?
Well, one of the reasons that Emmanuel Macron has made the trip to Normandy this year, which is, as you mentioned, the 79th anniversary, in those years that aren't either 10s or 5s, it's not the tradition for the French president to preside over proceedings. What he will be doing today, one of his tasks today, is to give a starting gun, if you will, for the preparations, the planning operations for the 80th anniversary. Of course, it is hugely symbolic here in France. It's going to be a hugely international effort with a lot of diplomatic work necessary to ensure that the French, the Canadian, the British, the German, the US participants all contribute. But it is also, of course, so it's a hugely complex effort on that level. It is also important symbolically for the individuals involved. We were speaking earlier at the American cemetery about 20 minutes from here with some of the associations that encourage and assist American veterans to make the journey across the Atlantic. It is increasingly difficult and rare for them to make that journey. So, of course, providing the opportunity for the 80th anniversary will be extremely important. But beyond the veterans themselves, it is a key moment in the coming 12 months in those preparations to ensure that there is an ability to transmit the need, what occurred 79 years ago here in Normandy, why it was necessary. A lot of the people that I was speaking to, the French tourists, they were accompanied, for example, by their children, and for them it was an important opportunity to transmit the sacrifice made by those American and international servicemen and transmit that to the future generations so they know what was necessary here.
Luke Brown, thank you for that.